Hello, you beautiful people, and thank you so much for finding my page. My name is Sam, and I'm with the Nomad Nurse Life. Alongside, I do another channel called Bandage Banter with my friend Crystal. We're both travel nurses, and it's kind of where we just chit chat about our day. However, this channel is a little bit separate because it's something that is my personal avenue that I am kind of nurturing, and it is called the Nomad Nurse Life. And I've been a nurse for a total of 5 years, travel nursing for 3, which I've been travel nursing in my camper. So fifth wheel, travel trailer, a couple different aspects in that area. And I was wanting to create a space for people who are like-minded or maybe just wanted to know more about travel nurse myths, and let's just get into what exactly is travel nursing. So my first point is that we are, as a travel nurse, adventurous spirits in general, because to me, in order to want to be a travel nurse, you have to be willing and kind of spontaneous in a sense to want to do this job, because it does require a lot of change and a lot of flexibility and adaptability, which you will hear me say numerous times just to make sure you guys get it. And I think that when you are looking at yourself as a travel nurse, if you do not like change and it makes you highly uncomfortable, please just truly have a sit down moment with yourself and make sure that this is something that you want to move forward with, because sometimes you'll get there and you'll be assigned a unit and you'll be floated every single shift to different units. And that is the beauty of travel nursing, with flexibility and being afloat and taking the heavier assignments. And it's travel nursing. You are going to be the person that the hospital sees as temporary, fair enough, that I don't want to necessarily say abuse, but they're going to try to give their staff nurses a break and give them the lighter loads typically. Now, some hospitals are great at acuity or just being fair, but there are some where I have literally been running my butt around all shift, and I look around and the 5 staff nurses are sitting having a tea party pretty much. And you kind of have to get used to hearing the term, well, you get paid the big bucks for a reason. My whole theory behind that is, we all know that there's only so much that you can do when you have a high acuity patient load, that you physically cannot care for those patients the way that they need to be cared for. And that's what tells me that much about a facility, as much as I need to know, is if they or a certain manager or a certain charge nurse is giving the travel nurse 6 heavy patients, while the other nurses on the unit have 4 patients that are like walkie-talkies, I will speak up and say, it is my duty to take care of the patients the way that they're supposed to be taken care of. And at this moment in time, there is no possible way that I can do so. And I do the very best that I can do. And I have to walk away knowing that is what I did. Mic drop. So, but what I state in here is that a travel nurse is a travel nurse is a skilled nursing professional who combines their adventurous spirit and urge for travel with a worthwhile and meaningful career. Travel nurse will work short-term contracts at healthcare facilities throughout the nation, international opportunities as well, which we talked about. Nationwide, more nurses are needed and wanted fast. So the whole reason travel nursing really helps is because we are supposed to be educated on the role that we are walking into. We require little to no orientation, because I have gotten that as a travel nurse, and we are there to fill the gaps. So typically fill the scheduling gaps as early as 1 to 2 days into our contract. Travel nurses ensure patients receive care required despite national staffing challenges. Travel nursing seems to be a newer concept. However, it's been around since the 70s. And guys, it honestly came around in Louisiana, kind of started when Mardi Gras, because the hospitals noticed a higher tick in patients that were admitted into the hospital. So they would hire seasonal nurses or temp nurses to fill those needs of the hospital. That way they didn't have to have permanent staff on board, because that's ultimately a cost, and they didn't want to have to hire people just to fire them later on. From bustling medical centers in large city to small clinics in remote locations, you can make the most of your nursing specialty everywhere you go. And that is true because I was able to work last year in 2023 on a Navajo reservation, guys. And let me tell you, it was a very unique experience. And I honestly feel like any nurse that has the ability, or any healthcare worker for that matter, who has the ability to go to one of those reservation positions should totally take it to understand what our Native Americans experience on a day-to-day basis and when it comes to their healthcare. With employers hiring travel nurses to immediately begin working, staffing agencies typically look for applicants with at least 1 year of clinical experience. Specializations and certifications can give you an advantage. And of course, you will typically see or hear most people say you should at least wait 2 years. Ultimately, I only had like right at 2 years underneath my belt as a nurse before I began travel nursing. And I feel like it's truly dependent on who you are as a person. I was a CNA before I was a nurse, so I had a little bit more of a background in nursing per se. However, I will say that you, again, flexible and adaptable, and you will get there. It's going to be a curveball, but you can do this. All right, so why do we need travel nurses? We already talked about seasonal population spikes, but also the sudden uptick in healthcare needs. I guess I kind of left out the seasonal. I meant seasonal in retrospect to flu season and things of that nature, not necessarily just Mardi Gras. So think about retirees traveling to their summer locations or the snowbirds. You'll have visitors in the summer to different national parks, and these areas will require a little bit more of extra hands during those times. Let's see. Staffing needs. Facilities often use travelers to cover their own staff's paid leave, vacation time, or disability time. So let's see. Hospitals often require only 2 to 4 weeks notice when a nurse departs. Staff nurse orientation typically ranges from 6 weeks to 6 months. I don't know about you, but I did not get no 6-month orientation. Period. Depending on experience and unit acuity. Consequently, filling staffing needs immediately becomes essentially impossible, meaning the moment that someone puts in their 2-week notice, you are already a minimum of 4 weeks behind on a staffing journey. So a traveler's unique adaptability and willingness to relocate on short notice ensures that facilities can maintain suitable staffing to deliver consistent and quality care despite ever-changing circumstances. Travel nurses are needed and appreciated, hands down. I've been a staff nurse before. You have the ability to be a travel nurse. I get that sometimes you're looking at it as I'm working the same and getting paid less. Ultimately, a lot of people don't understand the whole duplicating expenses that comes along with travel nursing, but we also sacrifice so many things. I'm over 4 states away from my fiance at this current moment in time, and I'm multiple states away from my family. I'm currently in Arizona, my fiance is in Washington State, and my family is back home in Georgia. So we have a lot of space between us, and again, that's kind of where I wanted to talk to you guys about relationships and how you maintain those during travel nursing, because it is and can be very hard. But honestly, it truly just depends on why you started travel nursing to begin with. So next thing is why you started travel nursing. So is travel nursing for me? So top reasons to consider: competitive pay, the travel opportunities, flexibility and variety, freedom and learning, new relationships. If any of those sound like something that you are wanting to gain from travel nursing, those are completely reasonable abilities to do so. And again, everybody's why is different. Mine specifically, when I started out, was new opportunities, new like sightseeing, like mainly new opportunities because I wanted to expand my knowledge as far as nursing, new opportunities from sightseeing to people to places, like all the things. And then third, financially. So I always say that when you are thinking about hopping into this process, that you want to take out a piece of paper, as cliche as it sounds, split it down the middle and put your needs and your wants. That way you can truly see what it is that you are working with. Because a lot of times, like, the thought of travel nursing sounds great, but ultimately when you write it down is when you can truly see and resonate, is this something that I want? So when you are trying to make the most out of your travel nursing career, you are going to want to weigh out the benefits, and those will vary nurse to nurse. It's crucial to know what is most important to you, especially, let's say you go ahead and move to the next step and you're speaking to a recruiter. Your recruiter is going to want to know these things, like what is most important to you, or is it travel? Is it the financial aspect? Like, are you trying to get near someone for an event? Those are things that your recruiter is going to want to know, or things that you're going to want to take into consideration when looking for your travel nurse contract, if that's the route that you go. So examples of needs. So a lot of people don't think of certain things when they're starting out in travel nursing, but there's a big variety. So let me just list a couple of these. So examples of needs is salary, shift, scheduling, whether it's blocked or not, non-negotiable time off, insurance, and a couple of other things that I'll leave for the mind to think about. Example of some wants will include the hours of shifts, because that varies from hospital to hospital, facility to facility, state to state. Shift preference, block scheduling, and again, some of these will carry over onto the wants and needs, and that's okay. Big city hospital versus small remote hospital, location, overtime availability, and I just want most nurses to understand that now, before, guaranteed hours was a big thing on contracts, and lately here I've been running into an issue where they don't want to offer me guaranteed hours, and on that is a make or break deal for me, because I need the guaranteed hours. I'm going away from home, and if you're not allowing overtime and not giving me my guaranteed hours, what am I even doing travel nursing? Because sadly, they will prorate your weekly amount to where you are not getting paid for that day that you're working. So ultimately, it's a lost cause, and unless you can pick up some per diem gigs in the area, which I will also be showing you later on, you are ultimately just hanging out and waiting and hoping that you get to work, and we don't want to do that. So let's go over a couple, let's just give a situation, a scenario here. So we're going to weigh out the pros and cons, and as your next exercise, you're going to grab your why, which, whether it was finances, meeting new people, or seeing and experiencing new things, or just kind of learning and growing your skill set as a nurse, and add in your needs and wants. So just to kind of make sure that you're painting this whole picture and aligning it together. So, example of what something that I would message my recruiter is ASAP start date. I want to make sure I'm taking home $2,000 weekly net, not gross. Overtime option would be nice, because I'm not signing no 48-hour contract, and that's something we'll go over later on as well. 36 hours guaranteed, preferably nights, block scheduling, 3 on, 4 off, or my favorite, 6 on, 8 off. And that's just because with nights, I don't feel like a person. So I will be a like absent person from the world for 1 week and having the time of my life the next week, and vice versa, going on through. And when you think about it, you only work like 6 or 7 weeks, and you had 6 weeks off. I don't know how I rationalize that in my head, but I do. So, things to remember, for example, again, this is just kind of running through what I would send to my recruiter. There's a wedding coming up in 4 weeks that I want to go to. Expecting a new baby in the family in 11 weeks. You're stationed in Arizona while the expecting mother is back home in Georgia. So either you want to be close to an airport, or you want to be close to the state that you are going to be maybe going back and visiting to. So those are just some things to keep in mind. So I also kind of threw in some little tidbits of like what my life looks like, and just some cute little pictures there to give you inspiration.